Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the 5G teleconference. I'm Doug Wood, the Associate Director of Grassroots Environmental Education. And on behalf of everyone working to bring you this call tonight, welcome. We're coming to you from the completely hardwired offices of Grassroots. We're safely outside New York City on the North Shore of Long Island, and we welcome people from all over the world to this call. I'd like to explain a little bit about how this call happened. Originally, this call was going to be about 10 or 15 people, but this is a really critical issue to a lot of people and a very serious issue, and so we're glad to have everybody on the phone tonight. Why are we having this call? We want to build a community of like-minded people. We want to build a grassroots movement that can help educate the public and lawmakers about the science regarding wireless radiation. Now, they say that, if the people lead, the leaders will follow, and that's our intent, is to help the leaders understand the science. There's a lot of ignorance out there among lawmakers and the public as well. The industry has done a pretty good job of keeping a lid on the science and telling lawmakers that there's no science to support the idea that wireless radiation is harmful anyway. Speaking of science, I want to acknowledge right here at the beginning that, we stand on the shoulders of some of the giants in this field that have been working on wireless radiation for many years. The late Martin Blank, of course, from Columbia, Ola Johansson, Leonard Hardell, Deborah Davis, Joel Moskowitz, Hugh Taylor, Martin Paul, and many others. I'm not going to be able to name everybody. But many of these people have risked their careers, literally, to get us to this point. They've worked as hard as they can to give us the science, and now we've got the science, and it's up to us to kind of pick up the ball and move forward. We have a lot of really smart people on the line tonight. Some of them you're going to hear. Others you will get to know in subsequent phone events, and there will be other events a little better organized than tonight, with simple dial instructions and enough room for everybody. So I'm going to apologize for that in advance. But we are at a moment in time, a critical time in Washington. And as you will hear later on during this call, there's some very troubling legislation that is working its way through Congress. And this is a time for us to work together. We're hoping that everyone can let bygones be bygones. We don't have time for big egos or professional jealousy. Everybody has a role and something to contribute, and we need everybody on this effort, not just some people. So today we start with a clean slate. We move forward together, and I promise you, we are not going to rest until we win. Speaking of winning, bad pun, but we have set up the win19.org website, which is a portal for new people coming to the issue for the first time. You might want to take a look at it. It's win19.org, WIN standing for the Wireless Information Network. We've also set up a listserv, and I've put that out on a couple of the messages, and I hope you will sign on. We're hoping that the listserv will become a kind of a conversation place for everybody up to date on what's happening. And I also mentioned in the email that we have kind of reconfigured telecompowergrab.org. That was originally set up as SB 649 was making its way through California. I don't think we quite got it set up in time, although we did do that little movie. And then the same thing happened in New York that happened in California. And to fight that, we put up Telecom Power Grab, and we won. And they won in California. So I figured, hey, you know what? We're on a roll here. Let's see if we can't win in Washington. So we've reconfigured Telecom Power Grab now to be a Washington-focused item. I want to mention before we go any further that we are not alone. We expect that we have some people on the phone who may not share our agenda. So I just put that caution out there. This is a contentious issue, and certainly the industry has its role to play, and ultimately, we hope we can work with them and not against them. That is our goal. We think everybody is for, healthy. These people have families too. And so, we're hoping that we can find a common ground with them eventually, probably not right at first. I wish we had a small enough group to allow for questions and answers, but for tonight, I'm going to ask your patience and your indulgence. Let us present the program we've designed to get everybody up to speed on where we are and try to all get on the same page. We're going to have another call in a few weeks, and in the meantime, please be in touch with us on the win list or directly by email. So before I go any further, I'm going to introduce some of the people who helped us put this evening together. Cindy Franklin of the Consumer for Safe Phones, Theodora Scorato is the Executive Director of the Environmental Health Trust, Ellie Marks from the California Brain Tumor Association, and Patti Wood, the Executive Director of Grassroots. And I'm going to each let them say a little bit now. And I'm going to ask Cindy, would you give us a few words first?
I'm Cindy. Hi, everybody. It's exciting that some people are on here tonight. I've worked about 10 years on the issue of the health impacts of wireless radiation, mostly related to cell phones and consumer devices. Last year, I got lured into being on the leadership team of the California Alliance for Safer Tech to fight California's small cell bill. We kind of got in there on the 11th hour. For those, well, as Doug said, Governor Brown did eventually veto the bill, and so we do feel that our effort contributed to that. So we call it a big success too. After the campaign, we all realized, and the others across the country, that while we activists were engaged fighting against, each state and in our neighborhoods, the onslaught of these small cell bills at the local level, the industry was very successfully spending lots of money and effort lobbying Congress, who were in the process of pushing through the same small cell bills at the federal level to pave the way for 5G. You're going to get an update, as Doug said, on those. So it's clear we do need a united effort. We can't just each go about our little silos and expect to, get much accomplished with what's going on in DC. We need to get hundreds of thousands, or hopefully millions, if we do great outreach of citizens emailing, calling their federal elected officials to protest what's going on and hopefully offer what we want instead, which we'll all be talking about in the future as we move forward. We can do this. We can build on what we learned from the California campaign, the New York campaign, the other campaigns. We've made mistakes, but we've learned from them. So thank you all for your passion and determination, and we all do have a recent hope.
Bye.
Theodora Scorato, can I call on you next?
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm Theodora Scorato, Executive Director of Environmental Health Trust, and we are a scientific think tank founded by Dr. Davis and Dr. Herberman. We publish research and raise awareness and brief policymakers on the science and policy issues, and I fully believe that we can be successful on this issue working together. I want to let you know about some of the resources that we've developed and are actually in the process of updating, because so much is happening right now. We have a fact sheet on 5G that is hyperlinked to scientific studies on radio frequency radiation, as well as the millimeter frequencies which are going to be used in 5G, and to key facts, myths, sort of addressing some of the myths, as well as published documentation on how property values decrease. This is a great resource to send to policymakers and community leaders, and actually probably by the end of this week we'll have the updated one with Dr. Cindy Russell's research, as well as linking to, and you can also find this right on our website, ehtrust.org. We have a YouTube playlist all about 5G, and the first video has excerpts from various scientific conferences on 5G and health and radio frequency and health. So I thank you so much, and I look forward to hearing updates from everyone. Again, that's ehtrust.org. And I'll also be posting them on the WIN listserv as well. Thanks.
Great. Thanks, Theodora. Great work you're doing in Environmental Health Trust, I must say. Ellie Marks from the California Brain Tumor Association. Are you with us? I know you have to leave.
I am here. Can you hear me?
Right. Yes, we can.
Okay, I want to thank Doug and Patti for taking the lead on this challenging endeavor, and I also want to thank all of you who have called in tonight. I'm the founder and director of the California Brain Tumor Association, and we focus on the prevention of primary brain tumors. We demand safe technology, and 5G is not safe. Last year, I chaired the California Alliance for Safer Technology, a group of concerned citizens and professionals, in an effort to stop California's SB 649, which would have stripped local authority in regard to small cell deployment. We educated citizens and legislators on the science, and I believe that our work played a part in some California legislators actually changing their votes and Governor Brown vetoing the bill at the last moment. We also raised funds to hire a professional lobbyist, and EWG joined our group and lobbied against SB 649 also. You can find some of our resources that we used at www.ca4safertech.com. Despite this victory, telecom did ambush some of the wealthiest communities shortly thereafter with 4G to convert later to 5G. And they threatened California cities with lawsuits if they didn't allow them to install these small cells in the public right of way. City council members, city attorneys, and residents are caught up in this turmoil, not knowing what they can and cannot do. And then I started getting calls and emails from people across the nation facing the same situation. People are desperate for answers as they try fighting this in their own communities. Joel Moskowitz did set up a Google group, which has been helpful. However, we need more, as many remain fighting this alone, and we all need to come together now to challenge this at the national level where there are many 5G bills in play and a move to deploy 5G as soon as possible across America. We need representatives from every state. Hopefully, we have a lot of you on the phone tonight to join our new group and educate your senators and congresspersons along with your neighbors who may not be in the know. Please take a moment to join the Win19 listserv at www.win19.org if you have not already done so, and encourage your neighbors and even your local legislators to do so. It takes a village, but in regard to 5G, it'll take many villages working together to stop this horrific public health threat. But together, I think we really can beat this. So I thank you, and I look forward to working with many of you and taking back our nation from the stranglehold that telecom has on our legislators.
Thank you, Ellen. Thanks for your great work. It's just terrific. Patti Wood, are you on the line?
Yes.
Great.
So hi, I'll make this very brief. It's really terrific to see so many people engaged here. But everyone on this call knows that the 5G legislation, if passed, is going to be hard to undo. The industry will spend about $56 billion to develop, test, and deploy these 5G services in the U.S., and that's through 2025, their prediction. So the purpose of this call is to really get to know each other, find out what strategies people have developed or already rolled out on 5G and local control. And we absolutely feel that a coordinated strategy is essential and that our individual efforts will be strengthened by working together in this effort to engage and activate many, many more concerned people to reach out to the lawmakers, the FCC and the FDA, which was already mentioned. But numbers really do matter. So, and also what was mentioned is that science has to be the driver, and we have to constantly point to the thousands of independent peer-reviewed studies that show biological harm. Just at Grassroots, we've produced a 2-volume digest on the independent science on public health concerns regarding wireless radiation and have used these impressive volumes to win many local fights against 4G and 5G cell installations. So just to mention, I know that you've heard about California, but in New York, they didn't put this into the legislature. The law actually wound up in the governor's budget, but many stakeholders, including and especially the New York Conference of Mayors, helped us to have this removed from not only the governor's, but also the Assembly and the Senate budgets for this past spring. So we did win in New York as they won in California a little bit differently, but we were able to hold them back, you know, in this state. So I don't know how much power that they have in D.C., but the United States Conference of Mayors really is an ally for us in this fight. And a final point is that many of us have been trying to bring an awareness to the public about the risks of this technology with programs like our Baby Safe project, where we're trying to educate pregnant women about reducing the risk of using wireless devices or not using them at all. If you're not familiar with that, the website is babysafeproject.org. And it is really, getting to the point where we have almost 300 signatories on a joint statement from medical doctors and researchers from around the world, just basically, confirming that pregnant women are especially vulnerable to this. So we really need this choice as to whether we want to be exposed to this 24/7 so that this industry can provide just some of their customers with the ability to stream movies and games at hyperspeed all day long. And it's really quite outrageous. And it's, I think, the thing that motivates all of us. And I'm hoping that, this call and future calls and action pretty soon is going to move us into a much better place than we are right now.
Thank you, Patti. As Patti said to me this afternoon, it's not fair that a single industry is going to impose on the entire population technology which we know can be harmful to human health. Well put. Okay, we're going to have some organizational reports now. I'd like to turn to representatives of some of the groups that are working on this issue, and I emphasize some, not all. I know there are a lot of groups. You're going to have to be patient with us, and eventually we will hear from everyone over the course of the next few weeks. But we've got about 8 or 9 groups we'd like to hear from tonight. We've given them 3 minutes each. Cindy is my timekeeper, and if you go over your time, you're going to hear a little chime, and that means you're done. I hate to do that, but the only way we can keep this organized is to be jealous of our time and respectful of everybody else's time. So, Cindy Russell, let me turn to you. Physicians from Safer Technology. Are you on the line with us?
Yes, I'm with you. Thanks so much.
Great.
Wonderful organization, all the things that you've done. Very impressive. Really happy to be here. I'm Cindy Russell. I'm a physician. I'm with Physicians for Safe Technology. I'm a co-founder. And that website is mdsafetech.org, or you can get to it by Physicians for Safe Technology. I started on this about 8 or 9 years ago when they wanted to put a cell tower in my daughter's school, and worked with the California Medical Association to write a resolution to ask that the safety standards be reevaluated by the FCC. I also worked on a symposium in 2015 in Mountain View with Dr. Moskowitz was there speaking, and others, and also then worked on developing, as a co-founder, Physicians for Safe Technology. So we have on our panel Cindy Sage of Bio Initiative, Joel Moskowitz, Dr. Scott Eberly, Roxana Marachi, she's San Jose State, Victoria Dunkley, she's a physician, Dr. John West, Dr. Phyllis, and Dr. Glass. And our vision is to educate physicians and the public about the harm of EMF. Our motto is, our vision is a world where technology serves our needs without undermining our physical, psychosocial, or environmental health. So we're doing this by providing science on our website as well. So we have a whole science section. It's divided into just different organs and NTP and so forth. We also have a review section and a policy section. So we have both the science, and what we hope to do is take the information from other groups and put that on as well to spread the word about it. But we're trying to be very mainstream and understanding that a lot of physicians are very uneducated about it. They just are very difficult. So I'm trying to work, locally.
You are muted.
I know for this as well. And so when we look at strategies, we work to advocate for SB 649 to be vetoed. We hope to do the same for the other bills and collaborate with people, and perhaps collaborate on the 5G conference, and also thinking of other avenues that we can work with regards to lobbying Congress and so forth. So thank you.
Great. Thanks, Cindy. Paul McGavin has this unbelievable thing that he's sitting in front of. I can see you, Paul, on the screen. And I'm hoping that you'll tell us more about that thing that you're sitting in front of and describe it for the people who are not on the video. Paul McGavin from Science for Wired Technology.
Hi, thank you very much for the opportunity, and it's so great to have everybody together on the call together. Yes, I have sitting next to me a actual working model of the small cell deployment, which we don't actually call small cells. We were successful in creating a new term along with Lena Poo. We call it a close proximity microwave radiation antenna dash wireless telecommunication facility. That's CPMRA dash WTF. Good to get the WTF on the end. We actually see this term now showing up on actual official government websites, including the city of Sonoma. So someone from Sonoma created a real scale size mock-up of the equipment that goes onto the utility poles. And when you carry that into a room, people can see what it looks like. It is 4 feet tall, 15 inches in diameter, is just the antenna. And then we have the other pieces of equipment that actually totals about 35 cubic feet. So you can put this on a roller and walk straight up to a podium and show it to everybody in the room. This is what the community of Monterey did to win back in March. And we have taken it one step further because we put all the cables on and made it very ugly. We had it on the street today at a Porch Fest event in Napa. We are fighting this on a bunch of cities in Northern California on a site called mystreetmychoice.com. And each city gets a chance to put up their own page with their specific next steps. And we've had some success. Verizon pulled all of the applications down in Monterey except for one, and then that one was denied. Hillsborough denied all 16, and now they're getting sued, but I believe they will win in court. Sebastopol actually got Verizon to pull that application. There were 2 there in Sebastopol. Petaluma, before getting applications, last Monday, on the 16th, passed ordinances to say no small cells in residential zones, only in commercial industrial zones, a 500-foot setback to any residence in any zone, and 1,500 feet between any small cell, meaning you can claim 1 pole, you got to let 4 go by, then you go to the next pole, but you can't put anything in between. So if Verizon takes pole A and pole F, nobody gets B, C, D, and E at all. Very good idea. So Petaluma came up with their own strong ideas of how to protect the residential zones. So we also played a big role in the veto of SB 649. In fact, I spoke to Governor Brown on October 14th, the day before he vetoed it. He came to Santa Rosa for the fire victims, and I was able to grab his hand and spoke to him for a full 10 minutes, wouldn't let go. And I told him all the reasons why the bill was terrible and a fire hazard, and why we needed undergrounded fiber optic and copper landlines in order to get the emergency alerts. When you look at the fires in Santa Rosa, we have 60 dead and missing. Those that had wired copper landlines that have remote power still work in a power outage. They got warned and they got out with reverse 911 calls. Those that depended solely on wireless alerts never got the alerts. So that was a message he heard at that time, and I put it into his hands. All the people that filled out the form on my website, 675 of them, opposing SB 649, as well as everybody who signed the California Safe Technology petition. I believe that was another 120 pages of stuff. And I got it in his hand as he went out the door to his helicopter to fly back. So 24 hours later, he vetoed, and we were very, very happy. So we were good that everybody worked so hard on that.
Paul, I just want to say, you're doing tremendous work, and I want you to really come back on another call and tell us more. I'm going to turn to Kate Keel from What is 5G. Kate, are you with us?
Hi, thank you, Doug. I'm Kate Keel. I'm the creator of the website whatis5g.info. It is a website intended as a resource for people who want to learn more about what 5G and the IoT are, and people who want to take action to oppose these. The website presents one side only, the downsides, the costs of 5G and the IoT. On the website, I delineated 9 different subject areas, not just health, so people can choose what to pitch to whichever audience they're speaking. Some people are more irked by health, some by privacy, some by cybersecurity, and some just by the sheer insanity of the whole thing. So the website provides you information on all the different approaches. The 9 topics delineated are health, environment, cybersecurity, privacy, effects on our brains and humanity, energy consumption, e-waste, conflict minerals, and ethical issues. The website also includes a page on the benefits of fiber over wireless and urges for the vast majority of our internet and technology communications be done over fiber, reserving wireless for only the essential applications that can only be accomplished through wireless. Most people still do not know what 5G and the IoT are. The advantage of our issue is, unlike cell phones that actually do have some genuine appeal and use, people can stay in touch with family and kids and so forth. With the IoT, the trade-off is just not worth it. What's being offered are connected clothing, connected diapers, connected pills, and it is robots in our homes. Most people find this distasteful in and of itself. So when we explain that the cell towers are being put in for this, it's just not worth it. Most people don't think it's worth it, or the faster video downloading speeds that they're advertising. So it's a little easier than fighting on the cell phone issue because the IoT itself is so unappealing. If we wake people up fast enough to say no thank you to 5G and the IoT, then the telecom's business model may just fail, and they may have to turn their progress obsession to fiber and to things that actually do benefit us. I invite everybody to stay alert and ready to act on all petitions, phone calls. Go to the Take Action page on the 5G website, and there are many, many actions you can take. Flyers you can hand out, bumper stickers you can order, yard signs, and so forth. It's exciting times if we put our outrage into unified actions.
Was that the bell that I heard? Thank you.
Yes, that was the bell. Thank you.
Okay,
Do I need to ring it louder?
No, that's fine. I couldn't tell what that phone was. Thank you, Kate, so much for your work and for your excellent website. If people haven't been there, they should go. Whatis5g.org.
.info.
.info, I'm sorry. Absolutely right. Janine Deal, are you on the phone, my friend from Michigan?
Hi, this is Janine. I'm calling from Michigan. I am by no means a 5G expert, so I'll only take a minute, but I was helping the national activist Kevin Modis when I discovered Michigan's 5G bills, and I knew I had to start basically an email address for notifying people, so that's how Michigan Safe Technology started. I'm Michigan Safe Technology at gmail.com, and I also own the domain name MichiganSafeTechnology.com. And if you enter that into a Google search, it will take you currently to our Facebook page. We are working on a website, but that's kind of slow going. My vision, you talked about visions for the future, and probably like most everybody else, is massive awareness of wireless health effects. That would be my goal, massive awareness for wireless health effects. Vision would be massive mitigation, correction, retraction, repayment, reorganization, and elimination. And my values are health and safety. As some of you may already know, also we have a senator here, Patrick Colbeck, who is on our side. He is for analog meter choice, and he has spoken in the Senate, in caucus, and on the Senate floor against the 5G bills here in Michigan that did pass out of the Senate pretty easily, the Michigan Senate. And we lobbied hard to get them into the same committee where our analog meter choice bill is, and it is there currently. We do have people working with their townships, their cities, to get resolutions passed in opposition to the 5G small cell towers in their public right-of-ways. We did have Daphna Topkover from We Are the Evidence come, and she did, I think, like 22 public presentations regarding wireless and health effects, and that's helped dramatically to grow our numbers. We are thinking about also continuing that, just having other people, myself and maybe others, give public presentations. I think that's basically my big push is to educate the public, and somebody had mentioned already that our strength is going to be in our numbers. I truly, truly believe that. I believe that we just have to continue educating people, because if nothing else, they will know why they're getting sick. So I think that's all I have to share. Thank you, and I'm so honored to be among this group of wonderful people. Thank you.
Thank you, Janine. Janine Deal from Michigan Safe Technology. We're very happy to have on the phone Mr. Jim Turner, representing Manhattan Neighbors for Safe Technology and also the National Institute for Science, Law, and Public Policy. Jim Turner, are you on the phone?
Hi, good to be here. I really appreciate very much hearing all of the activities that are underway, and I think a lot of progress is being made. I have a very simple statement to make today. We at the National Institute for Science, Law, and Public Policy have been putting out a series of papers on various EMF issues. They're all available. You can get them from that site or Citizens for Health or any other number of others. You can just come directly to me, Jim at swankin-turner.com. But the main thing I wanted to talk about was a new initiative that a number of us are putting together, which is called the American Health Coalition. This is a platform that's designed to accumulate all the various items that we work on where health choice is a major issue. The premise is that there are a wide number of people working on all kinds of issues that have health choice as a common idea. And we want to promote all of those people in a way that everyone can find everyone else. The premise is that on this issue, with the 5G issue, there are many people who don't know anything about 5G, but are very, very interested in health choice and health freedom, their rights, and so forth. And if they were to know about this subject, they would, in fact, I think, participate in some way in the issue. So the premise of American Health Coalition, which is starting up with a number of very media-savvy social media folks, the idea is to gather messages. We don't have any content that we create. What we do is promote other people's content across various platforms. So look for Americans for American Health Coalition, then you'll find a number of issues, and this one is there. What we intend to do is to make sure that everyone working on other issues where they're looking for health choice will know about this issue. So that's all I have to say. I really appreciate being here, and I'm glad to be working with a group of people like the ones I've been listening to.
Great, Jim. Thank you so much. And Jim, I should mention, Jim works closely with our friend Camilla Reese. Many of you on the phone may know Camilla and her outstanding work that she's also doing. So thank you to both of you guys. Catherine Kleiber, I'm going to mispronounce your last name, I think. Is it Kleiber or Kleiber from Electrical Pollution? Are you on the phone with us?
Hi, it's Catherine Kleiber.
Kleiber. Okay, good. Thanks.
I have a website, electricalpollution.com. I've been working on this issue for about 17 years now. I started out working on electrical pollution, dirty electricity, which is hence the name of my website. So I work on a range of RF-related issues, I guess. And I have been pulling together a lot of information of late, particularly related to one of the side effects of the saturating the atmosphere with radio frequency radiation. And I have a page up on that called RFI detection. And basically what I have found, and I found it in a ham radio operator's handbook, is that when you have metal to metal junctions and you put a lot of RF across it, it becomes an RF transmitter. So in the developed countries, that means basically a lot of essential stuff in most people's homes and becomes an RF transmitter at other frequencies. And this is very important because it seems to be very biologically active, and it is a side effect that this 5G will undoubtedly exacerbate. And so you might want to just check that out. In addition to that, I have focused a lot on steps that people can take because I have radio frequency sickness, steps that people can take to mitigate their own personal living environments to help them be healthier and fight this fight better. And that's on the solutions page. So that's kind of what I've been up to. I'm now also started working with Elaine Unger, and I'm very grateful that she's started a group with, along with some other people, Wisconsin for Safe Technology, and they're working on getting up and running. I'm also working right now on getting together a petition, and I realize this is only one very small part of what needs to be done to help people let our elected officials know about our opposition to 5G and why we oppose 5G. And I've been working with Elaine to try and get awareness out in the public. One of the things we're hoping to be working on is getting yard signs out, and I hope that other groups will start to do that. I know I was listening to Paul McGavin's discussions about some of their awareness-raising stuff with great, I guess, admiration.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, if people who aren't quite up to that level, if we can start getting yard signs out, one of the ways to get this in the media is to have a very visible yard sign, T-shirt, you know, everything in between. That you know, it's right out there with websites on the yard signs, so that everybody who walks by, you know, might well look it up.
Great. Catherine, thank you so much, and good luck with your work out there.
Yes.
I think yard signs are a great idea. We put them up for our farmers market, and we got flooded this year with new people, so they do work. Theodora, Scorato, are you on the phone, and did you want to talk just a little bit more about the Environmental Health Trust materials that we've got?
So I wanted to bring out a few important things that we'll be having on our fact sheet that I hope everyone is aware of, and that's that the cell phone company documents clearly state that 5G will increase the levels of radio frequency radiation in the vicinity of the antennas. And I think Arthur will be talking about this next, but the antennas could have 1,000 simultaneously transmitting antennas called phased arrays. And the higher millimeter waves to be used in 5G are the same frequencies used by the military in crowd control weapons, as it makes the skin feel like it's on fire. Now, because it's going to be increasing the RF radiation, many countries, such as China, India, Poland, Russia, Italy, and Switzerland, which have far stricter radiation limits in terms of the public exposures, the amount ambient in the air from cell tower networks. This is not going to allow the deployment of 5G as industry would like, and their documents state that because the increased radiation will exceed the lower limits of these countries. And what I'll do is I'll put this on the Facebook feed and elsewhere so you can see some of their PowerPoints on this. So they're launching large-scale efforts to change these limits. Despite that, the Swiss Parliament just rejected a proposal to relax these rules, despite a large-scale PR effort. We have a database on international policy I hope everyone is aware of. It has what's happening in different countries, the recommendations by health ministries. We also have a dedicated web page to the California firefighters who were able to get an exemption from these installations on their fire stations, and it has videos of their testimony, published research on impacts to the birds and bees. And I'm going to pass this now on to Ed Myers for my last 1 minute about the filing he's done to the FCC in regards to their federal action. Ed, are you on the phone?
Yes, I'm here. Yes, I'm Ed Myers. I'm an attorney in Washington, but I got involved in this because they want to put a so-called small cell tower directly across the street from my house. And I intervened in the pending appeal of the FCC's March order dispensing with NEPA review and also National Historic Preservation Act review of deployments of these small cell towers. which is highly offensive to me as a lawyer, let alone problematic for me as a resident of this community. Theodora asked me to just briefly set out the status of the appeals. We're very hopeful that the FCC's decision can be overturned. There are 5 petitions for review pending in the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit. 4 of them were filed by various groups of Indian tribes or Native American tribes. The 5th was filed by the National Resources Defense Council. The FCC has moved to hold all of these appeals in abeyance, which is basically put the cases on hold because there are still a few petitions for reconsideration pending before the FCC. The FCC's theory is that the court should not hear the appeals since the agency, the FCC, hasn't finished reviewing all the petitions for reconsideration. So that's pending before the court. We don't really know how that's going to turn out. There have been oppositions filed to the FCC's motion, and we're just going to wait and see what happens there. At the same time, some of the Indian tribes have filed emergency motions to stay the FCC's order, which would put the FCC's order on hold. And those motions are also pending court decision.
Yeah, I'm going to have to interrupt you and just say that we're going to come back at another time and have a legal call so we can find out about all the legal cases that are running.
Oh, sure.
We got a slew of other people, but thank you so much, Ed, for that.
Not a problem. My pleasure.
And Arthur Firstenberg, are you on the phone with us? And Arthur from the Cellular Phone Task Force and author of this great book that I've got sitting in my living room. Are you on, Arthur?
Hi, yes. I've been working on this issue for 37 years.
Wow.
And I was a co-founder of Cellular Phone Task Force in 1996, which is a 501c3 nonprofit. We do education, advocacy, and support around this issue. I helped defeat SB 649 in California. My organization was a channel for the funding that paid for radio ads all across California. What I'm working on right now, the most important things that I'm working on right now is we are about to file a legal action in Santa Fe, naming city, state, and United States as defendants, asking for declaratory relief that 5G laws and Section 704 are unconstitutional. I'm also working on an international appeal of scientists, doctors, and environmental organizations. I've been doing basically nothing else for the past 2 months, and we expect to launch it within about a week. We have put together a comprehensive, fully referenced document, and that's a basic summary of what we're doing. I'm working on it on a local, state, national, and international level.
Arthur, tell us a little about your book.
My book, The Invisible Rainbow, A History of Electricity and Life, is the most comprehensive book ever written on the environmental and health aspects of electromagnetic energy, and the history of same, the physics of same, and the politics of same, starting from 1746 and going till today. It has chapters on cancer, diabetes, and heart disease. It unites all the knowledge from astronomy and physics and Chinese medicine and a lot of fields that no one has put together before.
Well, thank you for writing it. As I said, it's sitting in our living room, and I've been dipping into it. It's absolutely fascinating, so thank you for that. Let me call on Eric Windheim from the EMF Safety Network. Eric, are you on?
Yes, I'm here. My name is Eric Windheim. I'm a building biologist and electromagnetic radiation specialist. And the EMF Safety Network was very, very helpful to me back in 2012. It's really quite a great support organization. I had to battle my utility about smart meters. They wanted to put one on the wall, and it was just me going to the utility meetings, and then people came out of the woodwork from this organization like Antoinette Stein, PhD, Nina Beatty, and others, and gave me the tools and information I needed to go there and point out the lies that they were putting in print. So the EMS Safety Network is really started off with smart meters, but recently they have written a letter to the city of Sebastopol. They spent about stopping the 5G. They've got easy click emails where you just fill in your name and you send them to your congressman. That's quite a good tool, kind of like, you know, all the advocate groups that want you to donate money. They just say click here and mail to your congressman. It was founded and headed, and is still headed up by Sandy Maurer, who's a mother in Sebastopol. And they spent considerable money with Best and Krieger on advice for how California cities can oppose small cell towers. And they've got a legal statement on their website about that. What I do personally is to take measurements, write reports, even expert witness letters, to help people avoid cell towers. If they're a tenant and they need to break a lease because the cell tower is too close, I help them do that by documentation. If it's a large housing project that is getting a second dosage of cell antennas and they need protection because people are already getting sick, I take measurements and we provide roofing shielding solutions. So I'm more solution oriented now. The EMS Safety Network really helped me mature into what I am, because if it wasn't for them, I don't think I would have ever made it. And you can find them easily on the website, on the web. They're called emfsafetynetwork.org. And my personal website is windheimemfsolutions.com.
Thank you so much. I'm going to have to cut you off because we are running late, and I've got to run through this. I've got a slew of people, including a couple of people who've been emailing, and we're going to try to get them on. Right now, we're going to turn kind of to a legislative report. I want to give you a snapshot of kind of where we are with the current legislation. I'm sure there are people on the phone who may know more about this or may have later information, but I think my information is pretty good, so let me go through this very quickly. The big piece of legislation that's out there in the Senate right now is the streamlining. I love this. These guys must spend all their time thinking up titles. Here's the title: Streamlining the Rapid Evolution and Modernization of Leading-Edge Infrastructure Necessary to Enhance Small Cell Deployment Act, which is also known as the Streamline Small Cell Deployment Act. Under a section called the Preservation of Local Zoning Authority, they proceed to take away local zoning authority with a particularly troublesome sentence which says that no state or local government shall prohibit or have the effect of prohibiting the provision of personal wireless service. That could be interpreted in many troubling ways, including basically saying you can't say no to small cell. As if to anticipate the environmental issues and the health issues that may come along, they specifically wrote into the Streamline Act that no state or local government may regulate the placement, construction, so on the basis of environmental effects of radio frequency emissions to the extent that facilities comply with the Commission's regulations concerning such emissions. And that is basically the same wording that's in the 1996 Telecommunications Act, but they put it in here just to make sure we heard it. A local state or local government can only deny a permit based on publicly available criteria that are, quote, reasonable, objective, and non-discriminatory. The Streamline Act includes a 60-day shot clock for a local government to decide, and if there is no decision, the permit is deemed to be approved. No state or local government can have a moratorium on construction for any reason. And the fees that can be charged for putting up these cell small cell facilities on utility poles in public right-of-ways is limited to the actual direct costs only, such as how much does it cost to keep the lights on during the meeting. There is no revenue to municipalities from the private use of public rights-of-ways by telecom industry. This is completely outrageous that we have private industry using public property to make money for themselves, and in the meantime, exposing us all. So the Streamline Act is the big one in the Senate that we are kind of looking at and strategizing around. There's another act called the Airwaves Act. That's House Resolution 4953. It's called the Advancing Innovation and Reinvigorating Widespread Access to Viable Electromagnetic Spectrum. Basically, this is an auction of additional spectrum. There's been a lot of complaints by the telecom industries that they want to have this spectrum available to them for 5G. This is, they're building it out and they're getting government to give them the bandwidth for 5G as if it's a foregone conclusion that they're going to go ahead. There's a lot of talk around the Airwaves Act about how the U.S. is currently behind China and South Korea in the race for 5G deployment, and we have to do everything we can to stay up with them. There's a piece of legislation that Ellie mentioned to me, which I had to laugh at. I thought she was kidding at first. It's called the Self-Drive Act, and that stands for the Safely Ensuring Lives, Future Deployment, and Research in Vehicle Evolution Act. This preempts all state regulation of self-driving cars. And I love this sentence, which I found in the middle of it, quote, "The Secretary may not condition deployment or testing of highly automated vehicles on a review of safety assessment certifications." I found that to be an interesting comment, that you can't base your deployment on whether they're safe or not. There's one more bill that's winding its way through Congress, and that is the American Vision for Safer Transportation Through Advancement of Revolutionary Technologies Act, or otherwise known as the AV START Act. This is a little bit like the Self-Drive Act. This is the Senate version of the Self-Drive Act. Unfortunately, because self-driving cars keep crashing, legislators have kind of shied away, and both of these things are currently stalled in Congress, not going much of anywhere at the moment. The Streamline Act, I might add, is racing ahead, but these others are kind of holding. I want to mention just quickly the assault on NEPA. As many of you know, the NEPA is the National Environmental Policy Act, which is a law that empowers local communities to protect themselves and their environment from any sort of dangerous or rushed or poorly planned federal projects. If you want to build a new cell tower, if you want to co-locate an antenna on an existing structure, that requires compliance with NEPA. But the telecom industry is slowly chipping away at that. In March, the FCC approved an order to accelerate the national approval process for deploying 5G small cells by loosening the regulations on their deployment in the U.S. Previously, NEPA and the National Historic Preservation Act were required to review small cell installations, and under the new order, the majority of small cells will be exempt from NEPA and HPA reviews, but the larger towers will still have to be approved through NEPA. So that's kind of a quick overview of the current national legislation. I'd like to turn to Daphne Tackover. Daphne, if you're on the phone, I know that you were at the hearing the other day. I wondered if you want to give us just a minute or so and give us a flavor of what happened in Washington.
Thank you, Doug. Well, we started our efforts in July 14, 2016, when the FCC announced the fast tracking of 5G, and ever since I've been working nonstop. Our organization has been working nonstop on every level, on the federal level, on the state level, and on the municipalities level. We were doing most of the lobbying on this issue, and we spent many, many months in DC lobbying. However, it seems that those lobbying efforts, to me, they seem to be quite ineffective, because first we don't have the checkbook, and then there was not enough grassroots movement to support and help us get meetings with the actual congressman. And as a result, I tried to constantly find other more effective ways to attack this issue. And we've been working on a project, a legal project. You said that there are maybe not so good people on this line, so I would not elaborate on that. We're still working on a legal project that hopefully will materialize sometime soon. In the meanwhile, I kind of like diverted my efforts to the state level because I think that's where people have more power. I've been touring the country, giving lectures. In the past few months, I gave dozens and dozens of lectures. We supported the efforts of many activists in states like California, Ohio, Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, Oregon, et cetera, and we found those efforts to awaken communities are pretty effective. As Janine mentioned before, we had hundreds more activists in each of the states trying to work on this issue, so that was very gratifying. However, what we learned is that, when we give those lectures, people want instructions as to what to do. And unfortunately, we don't have the winning strategy, and that's why I continue to try and find ways to make our efforts more effective and know what to tell to those people. One way which I found my efforts, important efforts, one thing I decided to put my effort on was trying to help State Senator Kleiber in Michigan get elected because he's committed to the wireless issue. And hopefully if we'll have one governor in a state that is supportive on our issue, that will create a breakthrough. So that is a worthwhile effort. The other thing is, I think that one thing that I did find effective in all our efforts is to put the effort on the focus on the human evidence, not just on the science. Because when I spent time in Congress and on the state, many of those we spoke to and met with actually have symptoms. So once you make them realize that the symptoms they or their family members are having are caused by wireless, are much more inclined to listen and help. And there is an epidemic from wireless. It's already happening. It's already there. You just have to make people realize that's what's causing their symptoms. So whether it's our legislators or people who just attend those meetings and want to know, once they decide, understand their issues, it's very helpful. I think in terms of strategies, I think that, the SB 3715 is really important in terms of, it's crucial that we stop this legislation. And probably what people need to know is that to stop legislation in Senate, you need just one senator to put a halt on the bill. And I think that's where our efforts should be.
Thank you so much. We're going to have another call coming up exclusively on the legislation, and I'm going to let you speak a little bit more. Right now, I've got to move on. Deborah Copold, are you on the phone? I want to just give you a couple of minutes. Deborah was key to us stopping this thing in Washington, in New York, and has been super helpful to Grassroots in terms of dealing with this legislation. Deborah, are you on?
Thank you. This has been a really good conference call, and good to hear what everybody's doing. I think I just wanted to say a few things about sort of the legal and policy end of things. One of the reasons, at least in New York State, really the companies were getting really aggressive is a few of us and some lawyers had figured out that effectively, if you had your planning and zoning board notate that there was no need for 5G because you had no hole in coverage, right? Because if there was no hole in coverage, as in phone coverage, there was no legal need for faster broadband or 5G. And they knew that some of us had figured this out, and eventually more people would figure it out, which is why they wanted to try to get this foothold to force it up. So again, I haven't looked at every state, but at least in New York, if your planning and zoning board documents that there's no, significant hole in coverage that this thing is going to cover, the 5G will cover, you can really defeat it on that basis if you get there early and often. And I was actually on the other line while Doug was introducing, but I'm sure he explained that what we did together in New York, Governor Cuomo had wanted to gut all of the local planning and zoning. What this bill does, the only thing I would just add to what Doug said is the phrase that Doug quoted was actually in the original Section 7. I think the thing that concerns me, because I kept reading it, was 7C, placement, construction, and modification, where they talk about having a standard. They say that the state has to have publicly available criteria and reasonable, objective, and non-discriminatory standards. Now, what I fear is going forward, a court will then say, well, it's not reasonable to have something in your ordinance that says that the 5G transmitter has to be 1,500 feet from a house, because some towns have that in their ordinance, or it has to be in a business zone, not a residential zone. So one of the things that we really should be concerned about killing is that Section C, and this bushy language about being reasonable on whatever the town's citing criteria for the 5G is. So this is how they're trying to get the foothold there. I think a lot of what this bill does, which the municipal organizations are not happy with, is what Doug was saying before, which were that the fees were going to be, capped effectively. So they're concerned about the economics of that. So I think where we were successful in New York was we kind of did two-pronged approach. We sort of recognized that the message that was resonating was sort of a don't tread on me, local government is sacrosanct. We happen to have home rule in New York, which helps, but this is a message I think will resonate in Congress, because there's so little control as there is just to control any of these powers, but what we have is to be controlled by local government. So we should.
Deborah, you're going to have to come back and join us on our legislative call. That's great. I appreciate your insight.
Can I say one thing?
One
thing that it's saying is that if you're going to change anything from Section 7, which is what this bill does, it should be about the health preemption and the environmental preemption, not creating more avenues to force this stuff up. So we have to combine the two messages, the environmental radiation problem with the do not take away rights of local government.
Yeah, great. Deborah, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. For those who don't know, 5G is not about cell phone coverage. 5G is not about broadband. 5G is not about emergency service. 5G is about streaming video. 5G is about letting the telecoms compete with your cable company to stream video to you and your neighbors, and you're going to be exposed 24/7. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce to you the lobbyist who works with Grassroots. He's the legislative director for Citizens Campaign in Albany, and also has been working in Washington. Bill Cook, can you hear me? Yes, we can.
Great. Listen, folks, briefly, we have 100 days. This is about one thing, and that thing is that getting our federal elected officials to not do anything on this issue. We have 100 days, and what we need to do is get literally everybody who's done something needs to do one more thing, and those who haven't done anything need to do something. Here's what it is. Phone calls are the best. If you're going to send a letter to your elected officials from the district office, if you're going to do an email, fine, but right now, with 100 days left, we're urging you to call your Congress member, call your federal senator, and ask them what they're going to do to stop this from happening. Don't do anything on 5G. We've got time. It's a home rule issue. There's lots of issues you can talk to them about. It's a health issue. The states' rights issue. There is no rush. This is a property grab. Doesn't matter what you're saying to them, but call them. And one of the most important things you can do on this issue is ask, when you're on the phone with the staff person, ask what the Congress member, the senator's going to do, and you want them to contact you and tell you. You want a response. That triggers how they handle it. So whether you're talking about the fact that you want specific legislation stopped, whether you're talking to them about the fact that you don't want any legislation dealing with 5G till after the elections, we need to just get through the 100 days. Then we can start to think the longer term. But in the 100 days, the best thing we can do is take an action. The best action is a phone call, an email, a letter now. That's all I wanted to share.
Thank you, Bill.
Hey, Kevin, I am on the line.
Oh, Kevin, great. Okay, you got 2 minutes.
Okay, hi. This is Kevin Modis, and I ran for U.S. Senate in California to try to bring attention to this issue. I am in Washington, D.C., working to educate legislators on this issue. People can reach me at 5gisharmful@gmail.com, 5gisharmful@gmail.com. Two things that I think are important. The 5G auction, my understanding is it's in November. This is a really important thing to focus on, trying to stop this auction, because once they sell, I think it's going to be $80 billion worth of spectrum, and the companies are actually required to use it. This is going to be very hard to stop. And then the Senate bill introduced by Senator Thune, and Senator Thune is from South Dakota. He's basically spearheading and shoving this stuff down our throats. Anyone who knows people in South Dakota, I need information regarding those people. We need help putting pressure on Senator Thune. It's S3157. The bill we've been talking about is particularly wicked. Now, there was 10 bills that were passed as part of the omnibus, and I didn't circulate that. I will send that out this week. That were already passed in the omnibus, and people should be aware of what they did. And one of them was the Rayburn Act. I'm getting confused. Anyway, there was the Mobile Now Act was passed in another form, which was a significant loss for us. So I believe the place to focus is on the federal level, because on the federal level, they're trying to preempt all the state and local measures. And so ultimately, this issue in particular is coming from the FCC and Congress themselves. Congress is definitely empowering the FCC. Congress can definitely stop the FCC, but they're definitely not. The recent hearing, they were basically just jamming the FCC, why you're not doing more, why you're not doing it faster. Congress is the problem. Congress is the solution. People need to go to their local offices and meet with their representatives, demand a meeting with their representatives, and start working them. And don't just go to one of the local offices, go to all of the local offices in your state. And if you can call and contact other congressmen and senators, we need to start applying pressure. We need to start educating these legislators. It makes it easier when I go in and speak with office, if they've been hearing from you guys in terms of phone calls and emails. It does help. So we need you to do it. If you can come to D.C. for a week and literally just be in the halls, and the representatives are very easy to tell who they are, and just talk to them, shake their hands. Say, listen, I'm electrosensitive. I get sick from this stuff. You need to understand what you're doing is hurting us, So we just need people here. We need people present. We just need to spend the time to educate and keep making this something. They don't listen to the research. What they hear is, oh yeah, I heard a little bit about that. They hear a little bit on TV. They hear some things, people they talk to, and they kind of just put together some idea in their head, and that's what they go with. Well, having people here talking to them here and there kind of helps form that idea in their head, and that's how they base their decisions on, little bits and pieces, and that's what the lobbyists do. That's what we need to do also.
Kevin, thank you so much for all your work and for being with us tonight. Really appreciate that. We're going to wrap this up because it is getting late. I just wanted to ask my co-hosts here, Cindy, Franklin, Theodora. I know Ellie had to go early. Patti Wood, any final thoughts before I wrap it up?
I think, you've done a great job facilitating, Doug. Thank you so much for what you're doing, and thank you to everybody. The presentations have been so enlightening, and I'm really excited to get going on this.
Thank you. Patti?
I'm just impressed with the number of people who have really worked on this issue for such a long time, 27 years and 30 years, and this is a big moment, an opportunity for us. We really need to do something here, and I think that if we can stop, like Bill said, if we can just stop them from doing anything before the election, I think that should be the focus at this point right now. And so maybe we have a call, in less than 2 weeks, so that we can just kind of organize around that. And certainly we can be in touch with each other, before we have another call, and start working on that right away.
Great. Theodora, did you have anything you want to add before I wrap it up?
No, but if there is a briefing that you want to put on with your policymaker, or even a more informal kind of conversation we can have over Skype, please contact us at ehtrust.org, info@ehtrust.org, to set that up. So,
I have just one other word. I mean, I don't know who's connected, but having a congressional hearing, any kind of an opportunity to have a hearing and have some of the best representatives from this group, the scientists, from this group actually go to Washington and speak directly to our legislators would be really wonderful if we could make that happen, within the next 100 days.
We'll do our best. I want to thank everybody who's on the phone. We really do appreciate your time. I know, it's Sunday night, not the easiest time to get on the phone, but I really do appreciate it. Over the next couple of weeks or sooner, we're going to be putting together a strategy plan based on your feedback. So please get on the win list. Go to win19.org and click on the listserv and join up that way. Or you can send me a direct email or anybody else on this call to make sure that we're all connected. We are going to have a lobby day if we can get it organized quickly. We want to have some sample letters to the editor. We've got some radio spots that we want to run on local radio across the country. We want to develop some science-based articles for media. But this is going to take all of us pushing in the same direction, and if we do, and we can make it happen for 100 days, all we have to do, as Bill Cook said, is to keep them from doing anything for 100 days. So there's no harm in trying, and we're going to do our best. In fact, I have a feeling that we're going to win this one. Again, thank you to everybody who was on the phone tonight. Good night from New York.